In the midst of a jam-packed road, Emile and his dad, Francois, clash over Emile's reluctance, making them tardy. Fed up, Emile bolts from the car, prompting Francois to follow. Suddenly, they spot an ambulance shaking violently with something inside shrieking before its windows shatter. Acting quickly, Francois pulls Emile into a hiding spot as the ambulance doors fly open, revealing a half-man, half-bird creature landing on a nearby car. Security officers rush to contain the mutant, who fights back, terrifying everyone. Despite their efforts, the mutant breaks free and escapes. After some time, Emile and Francois reach the hospital to meet with the doctor treating Emile's mother, Lana, who's undergoing a transformation into an animal. Shockingly, over the past 2 years, numerous individuals across the nation have begun morphing into more animal-like beings, often exhibiting violent tendencies. Authorities are scrambling to apprehend them, confining them to specialized facilities where they're sedated and studied in hopes of finding a cure. The majority fear these mutants, and advocate for their confinement. Emile hesitates to see his mother, harboring wariness since she accidentally scratched him, but Francois insists on familial unity. The doctor reveals a new advanced facility in the south where Lana will be transferred, a proposition quickly accepted by Francois. Eager to escape the judgment of those who knew Lana, he plans to relocate with Emile for a fresh start. Upon entering Lana's room, Emile observes the claw marks on the walls, keeping his distance. While Francois converses with her, believing it beneficial, Emile doubts Lana's comprehension. Weeks pass, and the trio, Emile, Francois and their dog, relocate near the forest. Emile enrolls in school, where Nina bombards him with questions upon introduction. Feeling pressured, Emile fabricates his mother's demise and attributes his scar to lightning. That night, a ferocious storm descends upon the town, plunging it into darkness. Startled awake by the raging winds and lightning, Emile investigates a noise at the window, encountering a mysterious creature peering into their home. However, with the return of electricity to the house, the creature vanishes into the night. The following day, an urgent call summons them to the local lake, where authorities have cordoned off the area. A storm-induced accident has caused an ambulance to veer off-road and plunge into the lake. Witnessing a police officer retrieve a creature's body, Francois dreads the outcome. This ambulance was en route to the new center with mutant patients, half of whom now lie deceased, while others remain at large. Frantically, Francois struggles against officers, desperately calling for his wife. Officer Julia reassures him that Lana's body hasn't been found, suggesting she may be somewhere in the forest. Upon returning home, Francois resorts to hanging their clothes on trees surrounding the house, hoping the scent will lead Lana back to them. The next day, during gym class, the teacher assigns tug of war, and Emile's team collapses, except for him. Amazingly, he manages to hold the line on his own just long enough for his teammates to regroup and clinch the victory. Impressed, his peers invite him to a party, but Emile, preoccupied, rushes home. There he extracts something from beneath his nails, with tweezers, wincing in pain as he uncovers small claws, a sign of his gradual mutation. Gazing at his changing spine in the mirror, he erupts in fury, hurling objects before seeking solace in the tub. His loyal dog joins him, offering comfort in their shared distress. Meanwhile, Francois heads to the mall where he unexpectedly runs into Julia. She shares the news that they've halted their search efforts as the government has pledged military support. Their conversation is abruptly interrupted by screams echoing through the mall, signaling the presence of a mutant. Reacting swiftly, Julia instructs her team to clear the mall while Francois, driven by curiosity, ventures to find the mutant, hoping it might be Lana. To their surprise, the mutant they encounter is a squid-like creature with a simple desire for food. Frightened by their arrival, she flings a box of shrimp at them and dashes off in a hurry. Julia, determined to apprehend her, gives chase, enduring a barrage of food items flung in her direction. Despite the chaos, Julia's training prevails as she tackles the mutant to the ground. Meanwhile, Francois stumbles upon another mutant hidden amidst grocery displays, visibly distressed. Despite his discovery, he opts not to involve the authorities, keeping the secret to himself. The upcoming Friday arrives, and Emile eagerly heads to the party, ready for a good time. His classmates are fascinated by the swords brought by a fellow student who plans to showcase them at the upcoming Midsummer Festival. However, as the evening progresses, the effects of alcohol start to take their toll on Emile, making him feel queasy, and eventually causing him to tumble from his seat. Quick to act, Nina offers him some medicine, but in his dazed state, Emile inadvertently licks her hand while reaching for it, much to the shock of everyone present. Overwhelmed with shame, Emile flees into the forest, where the eerie sounds of other mutants unsettle him. The following morning, Emile awakens near the lake, disturbed by the noise of a passing motorboat. Noticing blood in his mouth, he spits it out hastily and heads home, only to come across anti-mutant graffiti along the way. Upon reaching his home, he dashes to the bathroom, his stomach heaving as he expels a feather, a grim epiphany washing over him. He had unwittingly ingested a bird during the previous night's escapade. Ignoring the barricades set up by the police, Francois and Emile venture into the forest in search of Lana. Emile takes the opportunity to ask his father how he felt when Lana began to change. Francois assures him that despite the transformation, he was never afraid. To him, she was still his wife, albeit a bit different now. As night descends, they continue their quest in the car, belting out Lana's favorite tune at full blast, hoping she might hear them. Exhausted, they spend the night in the vehicle. Come morning, Emile notices his nails undergoing another transformation. Suddenly their dog bolts, prompting Emile to give chase, leading him to discover a child with chameleon-like characteristics perched in a tree. In a shocking turn of events, the bird-like figure encountered earlier reappears, launching an attack on Emile. With powerful wing strikes and claw slashes, Emile finds himself overpowered and wounded. Yet, a moment of recognition dawns upon the attacker as he locks eyes with Emile. Realizing they share a common mutation, Emile screams alert Francois, who rushes to his son's aid, pulling him away from the assailant while demanding him to keep his distance. Back in the car, Francois insists they head to the hospital for Emile's injuries, but Emile vehemently refuses, fearing the truth will be uncovered. Their heated argument nearly leads to a collision with a horse, but Francois manages to halt the car just in time, realizing they've arrived at the riding school. Surrounded by police officers, Julia informs them about a mutant's attack on the horses. Seizing the opportunity, Francois requests a favor amidst the chaos. An army nurse provides Emile with the necessary stitches, accepting the story that his shoulder wound was inflicted by a dog. Upon returning home, Emile takes matters into his own hands, removing some of the stitches and instinctively licking the wound as it oozes. Later on, during their lab class, Emile notices Nina wearing a necklace adorned with a feather reminiscent of the one he had regurgitated earlier. This discovery sends him into a panic, but Nina quickly confronts him about his reaction. Struggling to focus, Emile finds himself increasingly distracted by the incessant squeaking of the ferrets in their cage. Eventually, his frustration boils over, and he lashes out at them, demanding they quiet down. After class, Emile encounters difficulties riding his bike due to his changing body. Nina offers her unwavering support, even extending an invitation for him to hang out at her place. While making a snack, Emile is shocked to discover a dead bird in Nina's fridge. Nina explains that she found it at her doorstep after the party and kept its feather for her necklace. Emile realizes that he hadn't eaten the bird. Rather, he had left it for Nina as a gesture of friendship. Touched by his gesture, Nina reveals her intention to donate the bird as food for the mutants, opting to keep it for that purpose. Later on, Emile ventures into the lake, where he skillfully catches a fish by hand, inadvertently attracting the attention of a nearby neighbor. Intent on finding the birdman, Emile locates him struggling to master flight, repeatedly crashing to the ground. Moved by compassion, Emile offers the fish to the birdman, who introduces himself as Fix, having adopted the name due to memory loss. Observing Fix's injuries from his unsuccessful attempts, Emile suggests a safer location for practice and guides him to the lake. Emile clears away the branches from the water to prevent any more injuries, and Fix consents to practice there. As evening approaches, Emile attempts to ride his bike home but struggles, eventually leaving it in the forest and planning to report it stolen to his father. At his workplace, Francois is disturbed to find out that the bar owner has begun selling anti-mutant t-shirts. While taking out the trash, Francois hears noises from the backyard and is suddenly grabbed by a mutant, who pins him to the ground. Noticing that the mutant is held by chains, Francois approaches to calm him down, but his attention is suddenly attracted by another mutant fleeing the area. In a surprising twist, a colleague intervenes, using an oar to push the mutant away, revealing that it was a relative of hers who she had hosted at work. Despite their attempts to get the mutant to hide, he panics and rushes to the front of the bar, causing chaos among the patrons. Thinking he has noticed Lana, Francois rushes into the forest and encounters her wife in her bear form, making a noise before leaving. During lunch at school, Emile suddenly feels something strange in his mouth, and spits out a tooth, much to the horror of his classmates. To preserve his dignity, he claims it was simply a baby tooth. Later in the afternoon he visits Fix, who persists in flight training, repeatedly falling into the water. During a break, Emile examines Fix's wounds and removes the bandage covering his face, revealing the scarred remains of failed surgeries aimed at removing his burgeoning beak. As evening falls, Julia accompanies Francois on a search for Lana in the forest, where they must evade passing police cars. Despite their efforts, they fail to locate any creatures but stumble upon Emile's abandoned bicycle, leaving Francois stunned. Upon his return home, Francois uncovers a clogged bathroom sink, discovering a disturbing array of hair and claws nestled within the pipe. This revelation prompts him to realize that Emile is undergoing transformations as well. When Emile arrives, Francois confronts him with the evidence, But Emile denies everything. Determined to get answers, Francois locks up the house, refusing to let Emile in until he confesses. Desperate, Emile attempts to flee, but Francois tackles him to the ground, embracing him tightly as he grapples with his emotions. The next morning, Emile chooses to eat directly from his plate rather than using a fork, a subtle alteration that Francois keenly observes, yet he continues to offer his support. Francois also shares some of Lana's medication with Emile to help him manage his impulses during class. Afterwards, Francois examines Emile's mouth and confirms that the fangs are currently located at the back, ensuring they remain concealed from others' view. He suggests that Emile trim his nails every day and takes precautions to safeguard his sensitive hearing, placing cotton in his ears and concealing it with his hair to avoid sensory overload. Eventually, Francois guides Emile through the process of using hair removal cream on his body to help manage his evolving appearance. Later that day, Emile relishes a phone conversation with Nina as he strolls outside the house. Curious about his newfound abilities, Emile asks Nina to scream, and he is delighted to discover that he can hear her clearly from a distance. The following day, Emile pays a visit to Fix, only to discover that Fix has lost the ability to speak and can now only communicate through bird-like sounds. Despite this, when Emile embraces him, Fix climbs a tree and joyfully takes flight, reveling in his newfound ability. Later, Emile goes to the festival where his father works. Francois is furious to spot him there, as Emile should be keeping a low profile. Their confrontation quickly escalates into a physical altercation, with Emile biting his father on the shoulder in a fit of anger. Francois only manages to make Emile release his grip by threatening him with scissors. Distraught, Emile walks away and encounters Nina, who suggests a walk through the cornfields. As emotions run high, the teens share a passionate kiss, leading to more intimate moments. When Emile removes his shirt, revealing his changed appearance with hair and altered spine, Nina remains unfazed, expressing her prior knowledge of his transformation and continuing their encounter undeterred. As Emile returns to the festival grounds, he excuses himself to use the bathroom, only to be confronted by a classmate who witnessed his intimate moment with Nina in the field. The classmate produces a small device emitting a high-pitched noise designed to be audible only to animals, causing intense pain in Emile's ears. Terrified and in pain, Emile lashes out, scratching the boy's face before fleeing into the nearby field. The boy raises the alarm, alerting the locals who grab their weapons and summon the police. Emile, now in hiding, encounters a dog sent to track him down, but he scares the animal away with a bark. In the chaos that follows, two men mistake the fleeing dog for Emile and open fire in its direction, triggering a panic as the alarm rings out. Emile dashes through the chaos, pursued by a determined mob. As danger looms and a man prepares to shoot him, Fix swoops in, knocking the assailant aside and fatally striking him with his claws. With urgency, Fix leads Emile into the safety of the forest, but their escape is hindered by the arrival of a police car. Determined to protect his friend, Emile makes a desperate attempt to halt the pursuit by crossing the lake. However, the frustrated pursuers open fire from the opposite shore, tragically striking Fix. Emile rushes to Fix's side, tears streaming down his face as he cradles his friend, powerless to prevent his demise. Moments later, Francois and his hunting party stumble upon Fix's lifeless body, but Emile is nowhere in sight. Meanwhile, in the nearby town, a massive mutant prowls stealthily as military trucks advance toward the forest. The next day, Emile remains concealed in the woods, subsisting on whatever fruits he can scavenge. As night falls, he clambers up a tree, adding his voice to the nocturnal symphony of creatures with his own primal cries. The ensuing night brings a tempest, compelling Emile to seek refuge in a cave. His nerves fray when a bear approaches, only to discover that it's his mother. They share a tender moment, touching foreheads to express their bond, before Lana departs, urging her son to follow. Emile follows his mother's urging and stumbles upon a community of mutants coexisting harmoniously, among them the chameleon girl. Suddenly, flares streak across the sky, signaling the army's discovery of their hiding place. Emile and the others attempt to flee and take cover, but the soldiers employ a debilitating sonic weapon, rendering the creatures helpless and susceptible to capture. Only the chameleon girl manages to evade detection by utilizing her camouflage abilities. Afterward, at the police station, Francois aids Emile in fabricating a tale, asserting that he became disoriented due to intoxication and accidentally wandered into the forest. However, when Emile attempts to sign the release documents, his hand spasms uncontrollably, tearing the paper. Seeing the situation escalate, Francois swiftly intervenes, subduing the officer before he can react. With the officer incapacitated, Francois forges Emile's signature and swiftly presents the falsified documents to the receptionist, ensuring their escape. Subsequently, they hastily depart in their vehicle, leaving the town behind them. As the police initiate pursuit, Francois assures Emile that he won't allow him to be apprehended and accelerates, pushing their vehicle to its limits. He makes a daring maneuver, crashing through a fence and plunging into the dense forest. With determination, Francois instructs his son to flee, and Emile obeys, his joy echoing through the forest in triumphant howls as he races. So we have reached the end. In the chaos of chases and escapes, Emile and Francois found themselves reunited. With the forest enveloping them, they embrace the freedom that comes with their newfound independence. As they disappear into the forest, their bond strengthened by adversity. The future remains uncertain but full of promise. Together, they embark on a journey of self-discovery and survival, facing the challenges of a world that refuses to accept them. With determination in their hearts and the vast expanse of the natural world at their fingertips, Emile and Francois set out to chart their own path, forever changed by their experiences in the animal kingdom.